2021 is the onset of a further initiation into this process of mass awakening and transformation that we're seeing occurring. It is also the further pinnacling of the splitting that is also occurring on this planet. A splitting of those who are following the path of righteousness and those who are not. Of course, every spiritual tradition, every ancient culture across the entire geography of our planet Earth and across many different time periods on this planet have all spoken about this exact same time. Now, of course, the Mayan calendar pointed to 2012 being the end point, and then a new discovery finding that 2020 was the kind of delay period in which was actually being pointed to. And regardless of what the actual date was, whether it was in 2012, December 21st, 2012, or December 21st, 2020, we have seen a large transformation in consciousness over the past many years. And we also have been seeing within our individual self the journey of our own transformation, healing, and awakening into consciousness. And awakening into our true and eternal angelic nature, recognizing that we really are eternal beings, and then death is merely an illusion. And of course, because all fear stems from the illusion of death, then we have uprooted the entirety of our experience of suffering here. Of course, this process that we're in is not binary, or not black or white. It is not just a one moment thing. It is an ongoing process of deepening. An ongoing process of deepening into ourselves and the full multidimensional aspect of our experience here. Recognizing that we really have so many different ways in which we can experience this human life, and in all those ways we can continue to come into deeper levels of righteousness and alignment with the natural way, the natural flow, the way in which things are just simply meant to be. And of course, this can also be a very subjective experience, but when we look at the objective truths in which have been shared by all traditions over the course of time, we find that there are core commonalities to what truly makes humans tick, what brings us into a communion with our original creator as source, and what does it mean to live as an eternal infinite being. These common principles come down to the core common ones of love, kindness, compassion, respect, integrity, authenticity, knowing the natural way of things and looking to continue to uphold that in all of our words, thoughts, and actions. And so as we see ourselves in this light, we can continue to shine this light upon all the illusion and the darkness that we find ourselves revealing at this present time. We see that all that's been hidden behind the curtain, underneath the surface, in the unconscious, is all being brought to the surface to be seen, to be accepted, and to be hugged, like the metaphor of the grandmother arms that comes and hugs the sad child. You know, that grandmother arm love that dissolves all fear, all suffering, back and through this lens of acceptance, unconditional loving acceptance. And this is really the intention in which we can carry within ourselves. As we navigate this time, we dive into a process of deepened healing, bioregenesis, an integration, a purification, so that we can hold higher levels of frequency, returning to our natural blueprint. This is the process that we've all really been waiting for, and many of us consciously engage in for some time now. It's really such a beautiful time, as much as we are experiencing so much challenge, and it seems that there is so much delusion and resistance and darkness that has filled our planet and continues to. But of course, as we come to know ourselves and know who we truly are, there's a certain confidence, a certain clarity in this knowing that emerges. And that clarity brings forth a certain clarity in action, conscious embodied action in this human realm, where we act in the righteous way and we uphold this righteousness within those who may have not been. And of course, this starts to expand really our level of responsibility as we come into further levels of truth, because we see the delusions, the manipulations, the attempts at retracting freedom from our own human experience, freedom from our spiritual experience, because it's all one and the same. And this is so much of what has been revealed in this past year, and as we move forward, where we see where we have been manipulated and controlled, where we've been taken advantage of for our lack of knowing. And really, as we take responsibility for this, we see through the fog of our own delusion. We see through our ignorance. We see through where we have been duped and where we have participated in that duping unconsciously. And while we have no one to blame, but there is a responsibility to be taken and a responsibility to be lived as we consciously focus our attention and devote our attention upon our own healing, our integration, our ascension, our awakening, coming into a recognition of our eternal multidimensional self, and see that we truly have all of the capacity to choose love and joyfulness and peace and abundance for ourselves and all that we come across. And as we each choose this, of course, this continues to ripple. And so in this rippling, we have seen the upheaval of so many of the illusions that have been presented to us over the many years, but specifically this past year. The COVID delusion, as we may call it, of course, has presented so many different, fearful messages, fearful perspectives, kind of intentions that look to perpetuate more of the delusion, more of our disconnection from how we truly stay healthy, more of a disconnection from how we love each other, more of a disconnection from our ability to make conscious choices as adults. So much of this is continuing to be revealed, but most importantly at the core is the disconnection from our true source, our true maker, our true original blueprint and template in which make us who we truly are. This is what we're having to see through, and which we are seeing through. And as this is occurring, all of the illusions are brought forth. All of the holes in the story are brought forth. All of the deluded perspectives, the manipulated agendas, the simply criminal-like behavior of those in which we put so much trust in, those also who we've given so much power away to. And so instead we come to govern ourselves. We come to sink into our true ability to choose, to direct our own life, to direct our life in a way that is of righteousness, and to continue to be a shining light for those who are also learning along the way. This is so much of what this time of change is revealing to us, and as we all continue to make those choices individually through our lens of free will, then we start to see the power we each individually have and the uniqueness in which we all are. And in that uniqueness, there's a certain beauty of the story, a certain expressive creativity that is endless, like nature, endlessly expressing and expanding exponentially in its forms and ways and movements. This is the individual uniqueness of each of us and the individual frequency in which we all each hold. And so what a magical time that we all have in front of us, but there's a certain work that is required. There's effort to come to effortlessness. There is a certain pain that must be traded for the pleasure. And in the challenges, we naturally come to see the great opportunities of growth, transformation, and awakening. And the deepening understanding within all of this is truly that we are eternal. And then a remembrance of our eternal nature brings a certain level of patience within all of this. As much as we have headed into a year of great change, we see that there are many great years to come of change. There are many different choices that we will have to make. There are many different directions we will take, different creations and opportunities that we will engage in. And of course, all of this interwoven through the relationships of many other beings that are exploring this just the same. And so as we open our hearts, we connect to the power of what it means to live amongst other beings, in which are all simply just doing the best that they can. And as we start to see this, we start to have a compassion to be able to offer our support, our guidance, our wisdom, our experience, because this is simply all we can do. To share our experience, to share who we are, to share and simply show up as ourselves. And in showing up as ourselves, we really are being of the highest service that we can be. And for each of us, this will look infinitely different. There's no one tale that tells it all. There's no one story that we can all compare to. There is an infinite amount of stories in which we're all writing. And as we write these stories, we see and bring more of a trust and more of a confidence in our individual path, our individual expression, our individual nature. And as we come across the many different systems and teachings and great spiritual wisdom that is available, the wisdom of all times, the wisdom of how we live in every possible way of our experience, as we sink and surrender into this wisdom and explore it, apply it, practice it, humble ourselves to it, we then also write our own expression of this. We move through this in our own individual way, which is also infinitely unique. So we see we have the foundation of structure and also the expressive nature of the chaotic creativity that merges into one. And this is so much of what we may be seeing here and now, is a chaos that is also highly structured. Endless change, in which seems so frightening and so unknown, but yet there's something so deeply known about all of this, and potentially the reason why we're here and living it. And so the trusting in this message and the trusting in all of these perspectives brings us back to home. It brings us back to ourselves. It brings us back to our own individual subjective experience, in which is forever, never ending, endlessly unfolding, endlessly evolving, endlessly expanding and contracting. And if we can see this, and we can see that this eternal perception is always to be there, and that there's no rush to some magical destination, nor is there a running from some disastrous hell. We rest in exactly where we are, and we appreciate where we are. We appreciate who we have become, and also have a trust in where we are going, where we are headed, and who we are becoming. We see the collapsing of time, and yet we still exist within time. There's a certain engaged attachment that occurs here, and a certain, simple silence that emerges here. We come back to the silence endlessly. Endlessly we return to this. And we feel ourselves again and again and again. We feel what it means to be ourselves, and to be in love with ourselves, and surrender to the self, the one self. And so this is a timeless message, not just simply for 2021 year, or coming from the momentum of a crazy, transformative year of 2020. This is a timeless message that will never end. This is the message we are always to come back to, and see that all of the faculties of our human experience, our angelic experience, our eternal energetic experience, all of the above comes back to these core and simple principles. And this is how we navigate the complexity, the infinite complexity of life. So, what are we to choose? Where are we to go? What is our path? This is all to be understood and to be unfolded into, really. And for each of us to simply come to know. Much love.